Hi, and welcome back to Professor B Designs. And we've been working on a two-page magazine spread. And for this tutorial, we are going to align our text to the baseline grid. This sounds a lot harder than it is. It's just a few really quick, simple steps, and we're going to go through them. But you might want to refer back to this often in order to complete it because it can be confusing at first, but it really is just a few quick steps to follow. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to click on our type tool, and in our very first text box, we're just going to double click in there so that we have a cursor going. And we want to note our lead rate, which is indicated right here in this little icon. And if you hover over it, it says leading. So your lead number, or my lead number for this document, is 14.4. This might be different for your document. It just all depends on the font that you use, the size of your font. But so you'll want to write down this number or remember this number. So mine is 14.4. I'm going to write it down really quick, just on a little post-it note. And then the other number that we need is our margins. And if you remember, when we set up our document, we set up our document at 0.5 or half-inch margins. So our next step, now that we have our those are the two numbers we need. We need our margins and we need our leading rate. Leading rate can be found here. Margins can be found in our document setup. It will tell us here what our margins are. So the first thing I want to do in order to be able to see my baseline grid, I want to hide my background image because the baseline grid will not be viewable over any images that we have in the background. So temporarily we are going to hide our background image and we'll turn it back on afterwards. The next thing we want to do, now that we have our two numbers, my 14.4 and the half-inch margins, we want to go to InDesign Preferences, and we want to go to Grids. And Grids is going to pop up this information here. So on the Start icon, you can change your grid color to whatever color you like. I'm going to leave mine light blue as is pre-programmed, but my start number is where my margin information goes. So if you have a margin that's 3P2 or 3P0, feel free to put that in there. My InDesign preferences are set up in my units and increments as inches. You may not have done that, and that's okay. You can just put your 3P number in here. The next increment, where the next thing that we're going to adjust is increment every, and this is where our leading rate goes in. So if you remember, mine was 14.4, which is visible here. I just put it 14.4 here. Threshold is how closely zoomed in does my document need to be before I can actually see the baseline grid. And right now it's set at 75%. And you can see that my document here in the background is zoomed in at 53%. So when I apply this and select to view my baseline grid, I'm not going to be able to see it. So I'm going to lower this threshold to 50 so that when I click to view my baseline grid, I'll be able to see it with the entire document inside of the window. So I'm just going to click OK on this. The next thing I'm going to do is click View, go down to Guides and Grids, and I'm going to click on Show Baseline Grid. And now you can see that the baseline grid is visible at my 53% size or zoom. The next thing I want to do with my cursor still selected, I want to edit, select all, which is going to select all the text throughout my document. And then I want to go to the main menu, click Type, go to Paragraph. And inside of this paragraph dialog box here at the bottom, this is going to say Align to Baseline Grid. I'm going to click this and you will see my text shift so that my text fits on the lines of this like it does on notebook paper when you write on notebook paper. So here we go. I'm going to click Align to Baseline Grid, and we had that shift happen. I'm going to close this paragraph dialog box and select outside of this, and you can see that all of my text is perfectly aligned on the grid. Now, since I know it's aligned on the grid, I can click View, Grids and Guides, Hide Baseline Grid, but I know that my document is set up the way I need to have it set up to turn in and get points for it. Then we will go back to our Layers panel. We will scroll down to the image that we hid, and we will unhide it. And that is how you align text to a baseline grid. Stay tuned in the final tutorial where we lower the opacity of the background image to make the text in the foreground more readable, and package and save our documents for submission on Canvas. So talk to you soon and have fun.